Welcome to a new series. Now, if you haven't heard the news, there's a new expansion coming to Guild Wars 2 sometime in the future, possibly this year, probably next, that is going to be taking place in the Guild Wars 1 location of Cantha. So this is an area of the world with a lot of cool story and lore that many Guild Wars 2 players don't know anything about, because the last opportunity they had to play it was back in the year 2006. And finally, at some point soon, we'll be able to come back. I know a lot of you guys who watch me and my channel want to learn more about this area of the game, and I produced various videos over the recent month about that, but I actually have an idea for a proper series where we're playing it as it was in 2006, here talking about the Guild Wars 2 expansion. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, let me be clear. I already have a series on my channel that I produced about 9 years ago of factions. It's many videos long, and the runtime of each video is very long as well. That is a thorough and meticulous, complete experience of this game that you're looking at right now. I've already done it, and if you're looking for a thorough, meticulous playthrough, well, you're in luck. You can go to the playlist on my channel page right now and see those. I recommend you do that. But there are some reasons to do something more contemporary. First of all, that other series I just mentioned is, 9 years ago. I shot that before Guild Wars 2 even came out. So the day, I couldn't really give you any accurate speculations or really specific things that are genuinely relevant to the sequel game, because it wasn't there yet. We didn't even know what all the classes would have been at the time. So most of the speculation I did was limited, and I spent more time just talking about the details of the first game itself. Another reason that we can cover the original game again here is there have been some updates to Guild Wars 1 since then. It renders better, it has different balance, there are new community tools like Toolbox allowing you to see DPS and stuff that are all really valid things for a playthrough now that the original never had. And not to mention that I just have a nicer PC now. I play at higher resolutions, I give you videos at higher resolutions, I have a different microphone and so on. So there are some reasons, and I do want to play it again, but the question is how, because in many ways, what you're listening to me saying and what you're watching right now is kind of my ultimate nightmare. Just running in circles, doing the same thing I already did over and over, never moving forwards. I never would have imagined I'd do another Factions playthrough on YouTube. I actually did a stream playthrough of it like 2 years ago. Surely I've said everything there is to be said. And I don't want to just run in circles. So how is this different beyond the benefits I already mentioned? Well, first of all, all I'm trying to do right now is an abridged series. This is not going to be thorough and meticulous and complete. What I want is you guys to have something a little bit more concise, a handful of videos that will give Guild Wars 2 players and out-of-touch Guild Wars 1 players a brief or a briefer rundown of the major events of the game. That's what this series is going to be. So we are just going to be playing the main campaign missions. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Guild Wars 1, it's in the campaign missions that the big story events happen, that you get to witness cutscenes, that there's real intriguing gameplay, and in Factions and Cantha particularly, there's not too many of them. So I'm not going to be showing you me earning money, or me questing outside of the main story, or me gearing out various characters, or me leveling up, or me acquiring new skills, or any of the additional trivia that was there. I'm going to give you the main story and give you a real impression of what the game was like. That's what this is an abridged series. Secondly, and this is a fairly small thing, but since the original series I shot 9 years ago, I now actually own a physical guidebook for Guild Wars 1 Factions, which I know sounds bizarre. We live in the days of the internet now where you would just wiki anything you want to know, but they did actually produce a guidebook I never experienced way back in the day, but about last year I picked up, and has some amazing weird insights and semi-canon information that my original series never included, and some of it's really bizarre and fun. So as we go through these missions, I'm going to read you guys some excerpts about that. And then finally, the other reason I really want to do this, and this is the main one, to be honest, a little bit back, I thought of a really fun challenge run idea for Guild Wars 1, and this would be an opportunity to actually do it. Now, you might remember my other Guild Wars 1 series I did challenge runs with as well. I'm a big fan of changing the gameplay and giving yourself slightly a more fun experience than the devs' initial balance actually could afford you. And particularly in Guild Wars 1, I think it's a game that works very well with challenge runs. It's very versatile and there's a lot of mechanics that you can mess with. Most MMO players and, you know, CORPG players, if you're really stringent about considering Guild Wars 1 that, don't really have the mindset for doing challenge runs or doing things purely for fun, stuff that won't reward them with in-game goodies that the devs specifically offered out. But I'm at a place with this game, old as it is now, complete as it is for me, where I really don't need any of that stuff. I'm happy to just look at Guild Wars 1 and break it down and see what kind of fun challenges we can do. So, let's get stuck in, and I'm going to talk to you guys about monster drafting, which is kind of a game within the game that I've built and will be playing for funsies as we do an abridged run-through of factions. Let's jump on it. Alright, so ignoring the board in the background for a second, the goal of monster drafting is to beat the game, as all good challenges should be. We're going to start the game, and we're going to see whether we can get to the end. To tell you guys the truth, I've done absolutely no playtesting for this, and it's possible that it's way too hard, or that it's way too easy, and needs balance, which of course most things do, so that will just be a part of the fun of what we're going for here. One of the things that's always intrigued me about Guild Wars 1, and I think it's a gold mine of opportunity. It's a real shame that Guild Wars 2 didn't do it and that the devs never really gave their original product a chance to flourish, is the fact that enemies in the game are using player skills and player balance. So when a balance patch comes out, it's interesting not just because you might have a new skill to play with, but it's going to affect your opportunity to farm or not farm or whatever in various areas of the game. Obviously that's very unwieldy and difficult for the devs to deal with, but I really do think that a lot of beautiful stuff can come from it. The idea of monster drafting is that we don't get our own builds anymore. Instead of us being able to choose exactly what we use, we instead have to use monster builds. We draw various monsters from the region of Cantha like cards, and we build out our hand, which would be our party, and see whether that can defeat the missions. And in this way, we can actually learn a lot about some of the amazing detail and work that ArenaNet went to, making so many diverse and interesting and weird creatures in Cantha and all over Guild Wars 1 that most players never appreciate. You don't think that hard about the opponent builds, because a lot of the time you just destroy them because the game's too easy and that's it, it's over. Hell, even in hard mode you can feel that way. But in this game, suddenly the skills that the enemies are using all over Guild Wars 1 and that ArenaNet themselves designed becomes really, really important. So here's how we play. It's quite simple. I'm in Tabletop Simulator right now, and what I have is a virtual deck. And in this deck of cards here, I have 138 different official canon Guild Wars 1 factions enemies with their Guild Wars 1 faction skill bars. I haven't tweaked these in general. There might be some very slight changes, which I'll talk about at the end of the series probably. In general, everything you see here is what ArenaNet set up with the game. The first rule of the game is that our skills, the skills of all of our heroes, have to be the skills that we draw from this monster team here in the tabletop, okay? Additionally, all of our monsters in our party will be able to get a free resurrection signet. Most enemies in Guild Wars 1 don't have a resurrection signet, but we're allowed to add that to our build, so that's nice. Also, if we draw a monster from this deck that has 3 or fewer skills, then we can add one of our own. So basically, when we complete a mission, we get to keep some of our monsters, and we throw the rest in the graveyard, and then we draft some more. And we're going to try and build a good team as the game goes along. If we get screwed by RNG, this might be really, really kind of hard. So let's just draw then, and let's see what we've got. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click the deck here, and I'm going to deal. I'm the white team right now, so I'm just going to deal 1, 2, 3 cards to my hand. And we get to pick one of these 3 to be in our party. So let's see what we've got. We got the Sickened Servant. So he's a Fire Elementalist, and we can see from the skill icons, I think that's Flare he's got. Is that Starburst? That's the elite Breath of Fire, I think. We can obviously go to the wiki to verify this stuff. My actual knowledge base on skill icons versus actual skills might be getting a bit weak these days. But basically a Fire Elite, or we've got a Necromancer here from the Blood Drinker, who I think has like Vampiric Aura and stuff, Parasitic Contagion there I see. Or we've got a Mantis, the Mantis Stormcaller, who's another Elementalist, who has obsidian flesh as the elite, maelstrom, a few other things. I think I'll go with the Sickened Servant, okay? So I'm going to take the Sickened Servant, and he's going to join my team, and I'm going to discard these two. So I've drafted one. Now, the first mission in the game has a party size of 4, so I'm going to draw again now and see what our second build is going to be. So we've got a Kirin, another Necromancer, Tainted Flesh, Barbs, Animate Vampiric Horror, that's pretty good. Minions, very, very strong. There's a Salt Spray Dragon here. Ride the Lightning, Inferno, more Ellie stuff. I actually, you guys might not know this, but in the later years of Guild Wars 1, they buffed the hell out of Elementalist for PvE, and especially in normal mode. So Ellie builds are pretty good. Or we can get a Warrior. So I've already kind of got a guy on the back line. I'll take the Naga Whelp. So the Naga Whelp looks like he has some various sword abilities. Shield stance, I think that is there. We'll grab that. And we have to discard these two. So party member 3 now of 4. And who have we got here? Well, we've got a Warden, which is a Ritualist with a lot of Rit skills. We've got a Shuriken Monk that will actually be able to heal. The elite on the Monk, though, is Spellbreaker, which isn't that good. Or we've got the Greater Blood Drinker, another Necromancer, kind of backline caster. This is tricky. Now, you might think we'll take the character with the most skills, and I do think that the Warden of Seasons looks really strong. Like, ludicrously strong. I might take the Shuriken Monk, but you got to think as well that we are playing with monster builds. Not all monster builds are actually good with us, and a part of this game is figuring out which ones will be decent because of the way that the AI works. So, for example, even if a monster only has a couple of skills, like this Sickened Servant, as long as it's got something to spam, that might be okay, because they might not run into mana issues, or they might waste energy on the wrong things. So number of skills doesn't mean everything, basically, is what I'm trying to say. The Warden of Seasons does look pretty good. Recuperation, Spirit Light is on there, Ancestor's Rage. I think I'll take the Shuriken Monk for now, and we'll see what else we can do. So that's going to be player number 3. That might have been a mistake. I probably could have taken the Warden of Seasons. The truth is that at the start of the game, it's going to be very easy and very simple. This first mission, we don't have to worry too much about, so that's fine. And then our final party member, we've got the Afflicted Necromancer, a Naga Warrior. This is kind of funny. Very few of the monsters in this deck are similar. Like, most of them are very different from one another. But the Naga Warrior and the Naga Whelp are quite close. They actually have different elites. And well, the build is different, I guess, to be honest. But the idea that they're both Warrior Naga is, I guess, the thing. So what do I want? There seems to be a lot of Necros coming up. The Essence of Turtle, the Afflicted Necromancer. Or another Naga. We could have 2 Naga in the team. That would be kind of interesting. I guess I'll go with the Afflicted Necromancer just to round us out. Okay, so that is our team. And now, what we're going to do is we're going to take these discarded cards. We're going to throw them back into the deck. Shuffle the deck so that we don't know what's in there. And we will come back to that at a later date. For now, though, I have these builds, which I'm going to assign to my team. And we will play the Minister Cho's Estate for mission 1. Alright, so mission 1. I don't really expect too many challenges here. The first mission and the start, really, of the faction storyline takes place here at Minister Cho's Estate, which is slightly north of where the very, very beginning of the game is, down here at Xingji Monastery. There were 2 ways to enter this story. One was if you were a player from the Prophecies campaign a year before, and you took your character from Tyrian lands far up north off of this map that you can't see. If you were in that situation, you actually started the game over here at the mainland. But if you made a new character, and perhaps you did this because you wanted to be one of the new professions, the assassin or the ritualist, you'd actually start here at Xingji Monastery and participate in a bunch of basic quests teaching you about the game and how to fight and so on. The idea being that you are a student at this monastery. And in those early game quests, you learn about your headmaster, a guy called Master Togo, and in particular, many of the other students who are there with you that you get to know. One very prominent extra student is this character called Yijo Tan, who's like a baller, and he knows how to do everything, and he's awesome. So very early on in the story, you realize that there's some kind of plague or sickness or issue up at this rich guy's estate here, And so the story really begins. We can actually speak to this character here. Guardsman Kao gives us a rundown. He says, it was here at Minister Cho's estate that the affliction was first encountered on Xingji Island. Master Togo, the head of the world-renowned school, and his best pupil, Yijo Tan, travelled to the minister's estate to visit Minister Cho to present the new graduates from the monastery. Right, yeah, we were basically graduating and coming here too for that. Upon their arrival, they discovered the guards and servants of the estate had become afflicted by a mysterious disease, driving them mad and causing them to kill one another. If you choose to enter this mission, you will witness the journey of Master Togo, Yijo Tan, and the students of the monastery through the estate to reach Minister Cho. So, because I am not a native Canthan character right now, I'm playing on a Mesmer from Tyria. I kind of get this in a recap format, which is pretty appropriate for our abridged playthrough. It's kind of hilarious. I'm noticing a typo here. And that's because, first of all, there were typos in Guild Wars 1, just as there are typos in Guild Wars 2. But this specific dialogue you're reading, a lot of players never really went to, because it was optional dialogue about a story that, frankly, most people didn't care about during the day. And you'd only find if you were of a particular background. But when you first enter here, you do get a cinematic, which I guess I'll show you guys. I just realized I don't have the game's audio on. So let's listen to the first cutscene of Factions, not including the very original one where you open up. And these cutscenes are pretty rough, let me say, all right? And when I say pretty rough, I mean very rough. This abridged series is going to be full of very dodgy voice acting. The best thing you can hope for is to just enjoy it. Because I'm cutting away most of the other really profound storytelling.
Ah, Master Togo. I did not know you were here. The minister has been waiting for you. Please, you are welcome here. What is going on?
It is madness! Guards have turned on each other! Something has gone terribly wrong! It is madness, I tell you! Madness!
Come. The minister needs our help. You must stay here. Do not let anyone else in or out of this gate until we know what is going on. Whatever it is that threatens this estate must not be allowed to threaten the entire monastery.
Master Togo, my son, he is in there.
I will look for him.
Please, Master Togo, bring him back alive.
So the cutscene's bugging out a little bit there with the movement, it seems. But so this pretty much expresses the majority of this story. Let me be clear. It's about a plague that ravages a nation already on the precipice of overpopulation, being overpopulated, and that is kind of still reeling from the effects of a magical disaster that had occurred 200 years before. So it's kind of humble start here, where this starts out as a sickness, but it's kind of like rabies. People are getting really angry and frothing at the mouths and fighting one another, but we don't really see any physical changes in them so far. A little bit of weird, cool trivia, by the way. That stick that guy kills the other guard with, that eventually became an equipable weapon, I think, years later with one of the post-game updates. But so there you have it. What we'll do now is we're going to enter the mission. This kind of doubled as not just a regular mission, but as a bit of, later tutorial stuff. Much of the tutorializing had been done already, but there were still basic gameplay elements that ArenaNet were teaching people here at Minister Cho's estate, so don't expect anything too crazy. I have set up my character, so let's just run through this real quick, our builds. First of all, I'm reasonably impressed with mine. Now, we have less than 3 skills, right? So, according to the rules, I can add 1 new one, and I could make that whatever I want. If I look at my skill bar, I can see that they're all very, very low energy. There's like 5 energy, a bit of exhaustion on Breath of Fire, but it's all pretty cheap. So what I'm going to do is probably add another attacking spell. I could do Meteor, but that's more exhaustion. I don't want to add more exhaustion. We could do Phoenix if we wanted. I've always liked Phoenix. Let's add Phoenix. So there you go. So that's our bar there. So you'll see I've capped out at 12. If I was an LE main, I in theory could go higher than that. But to stop a lot of really obnoxious, weird min-max stuff for the challenge, I actually have a rule in place which is just I can't go over level 12 in any one attribute. That way, 90% of heroes can play 90% of the builds, and there's no weirdness of that. But moving over to Talcora is obviously a Divine Favor-oriented build. A Spellbreaker obviously is Divine Favor. Spell Shield is Divine Favor. So having Monk Primary and being able to put points in Divine Favor is smart here. But you see, I've left her below 13. She can only be at a maximum of 12. So yeah, her build, I don't know. It sort of seems okay. It's mostly just protection and Divine Favor, to be honest. So I don't need anything in healing. Well, that's it then. I don't really have any points to spend anywhere else. I'm not sure how well she'll heal. She has this skill here, Divine Intervention, which basically means it's an enchantment, and if someone dies while they're enchanted with it, they don't die, and then they instead get healed by a lot. And it's a pretty cool enchantment. I just don't know how well the AI will work with it. It's one of the only really strong ways she actually has of healing. We have Reverse Hex, but that requires us to be hexed. Shield Guardian, for 3 seconds, everyone in earshot can block, and if we block, we get healed. But I don't know. And then Spell Shields, for 17 seconds while casting, foes can't target me with spells. I don't think she's actually going to be that good. She's not going to get hit much, but I don't know. From casters, I think that might have been a bit of a dud monster. Moving over to the Afflicted Necromancer. His build's kind of weird as well, because I've noticed he's got like death magic and blood magic and curses like everywhere. Order of Apostasy, the elite in particular, is a weird skill for PvE. Basically, when we all get enchanted, and then if somebody attacks a foe with an enchantment, we rip the enchantments just by attacking, which is really cool, but it comes at a massive health sacrifice, a huge amount of energy, minimum duration. I think this is not going to go very well. This is kind of not a good build either. So it's a good thing that we're early on in the game, and it shouldn't be too much of a trouble. Other than that, he'll just drink blood, and he should be fine. And then costs, pretty strong. Obviously, this is our Naga, and he's just going to smack people up with a sword, and I actually think that he's going to be totally okay. So, yeah, let's just run on in with the mission now, see how it goes, and I'll give you guys some extra context and post-commentary from the strategy guide as we play through the opening mission of Factions. Alright, so a lot of what Mission 1 in the game is going to do is teach people about like UI-oriented stuff, how to draw on the minimap, how to ping, how to, and particularly actually one of my keybinds seems broken and I couldn't ping, which was kind of irritating. There's not much actual lore or world building really going on, just because so much of the dialogue is still building around just teaching you the game's mechanics. But you get a nice little view of this menagerie. I've always found it quite an interesting setting because it's filled with creatures that aren't native to Cantha, which we as players don't think of as exotic, but obviously the Canthans do. So you had Tyria and Prophecies that had come out a year before, and people were familiar with bears and Melandru stalkers and stuff, but down here at this remote southern continent, there's not so much of that. I wonder whether Guild Wars 2 will do something similar, where we get loads of interesting new weird creepy crawlies and creatures, and they're meanwhile fascinated by our oak hearts and stuff. Later in the game, you're going to find a really cool type of plant creature called an Island Guardian, and I really want to see those in Guild Wars 2. But I'd like to see that the Canthans are really interested in like the idea of oak hearts and stuff, and I'd like the idea of being able to return to this menagerie in 250 years. Be pretty badass. The creatures are all really easy. What's kind of cool is the build I'm playing, the Sickened Servant, actually appears in this mission. The Sickened Servant is someone who's caught this disease, this plague, made them angry, and they're an elementalist. They don't have Starburst though, so if you guys don't know, in Guild Wars 1, if you put the game into hard mode, everything gets an elite skill, unless it's an early game boss that they don't want you capturing a skill out of order on or whatever. So pretty much I get to use Starburst, but they don't right now because we're quite early game. Also, I'm level 28. I'm level 20 and they're level 8, so they really can't do much. The additional Phoenix on my build was pretty cool as well, because Starburst, the elite I'm using, the skill 1, that is a point-blank skill. I have to run over and touch them, and it explodes all around me, does loads of damage. Phoenix is very similar in that it also does additional damage around you. So yeah, here the game's teaching me about pings. you're going to have a cool moment where if you're reading Togo's dialogue, he says, oh, where's that little boy? Up there. And the little boy is not up anywhere. He's quite far off to the side and almost impossible to see unless you learn how to use the minimap. So you kind of get this weird sense in Guild Wars 1 that people are like omniscient because they have this minimap that allows them to see enemies through walls and stuff. One of the cooler things I think Guild Wars 2 did, really, getting rid of that whole idea of the compass that you see exactly where enemies were. You actually have to use your eyes and look at the environment. This game, in a big way, could just be played by looking at the minimap, and that kind of sucked. So, looking over at the strategy guide. Now, I had never read this before, really, until very recently. About 110 pages in, they give you a walkthrough of the faction's missions. Except that it's written about the game very early on, before a ton of updates. So it actually talks about mechanics that don't exist. Like, when we get to the last episode of this series, you're going to hear it talks about a mechanic with the final boss that never made it into the game. And it talks about one of the elite missions, a great character called Ergos, we'll deal with as this series goes along, appearing somewhere completely else in the game. It's kind of fascinating. And there's additional lore information. So one of the writers of this guide, and I haven't spoken to him, I don't know to what extent they worked on it, but in the credits of this guide that I hold in my hands right now, it has two writers, someone called Corey Herndon, who I guess did most of the legwork, but I don't know who that is. And the other writer of this guide is a man named Bobby Stein, who is still at the studio and still writes for Guild Wars 2 and does work in this area. So whether the information we find in this strategy guide is fully canon or not, I don't know. It's kind of up to you guys to tell. But it does give you some weird bits of trivia. They'll have things like, in-game, there's an NPC who says, oh, I'm guarding this gate, but I wish I was playing the violin right now. That's it. That's all they'll say in-game. And yet in the strategy guide, there'll be like a whole paragraph about that character, about how they're an artist at heart and they really wish they were doing something else and blah, blah, blah. And I wonder to what degree, you know, we really listen to the guide, which is essentially just rephrasing what we get in the game, but in a more embellished way. So, anyway, let's see what they said about the mission you're looking at in the background here. Master Togo leads you and your party to the gates of Minister Cho's estate, where trouble is brewing. The Minister's estate is the second building erected on Xingji Island, and is the traditional residence of Cantha's Minister of Cultural Affairs. Minister Cho's menagerie of exotic animals is considered to be one of the finest such collections in the whole world. The heroes are horrified to discover that the affliction, a plague of unknown origin, has infected many estate guards and exotic animals in the minister's private zoo. Master Togo guides you and your party through various parts of the estate in an attempt to reach the minister before he too becomes afflicted. So yeah, we'll see that in just a moment. Along the way, you learn the finer details of group coordination, calling targets, using the minimap, avoiding patrols, pulling monsters, and harnessing morale boosts. So a part of my challenge is I'm using monster builds, which don't fill up the whole skill bar. But we do at least get resurrection, but there aren't really going to be many hard resurrection skills around. One of the real challenges of this is going to be that all I really get to res is the resurrection signet. Once that's spent, you don't get it again until you kill a boss and it recharges. And this opening mission should teach you that. But because we're all level 20, it's kind of okay. So if I had used my skill 8 already, it would be locked out. And I'm going to kill a boss in a second through this gate behind there that Master Togo is about to talk about. And it would recharge. That's going to be a big part of this challenge. And this first mission actually teaches you a bit about it. So the strategy guide also gives you, like, information about key NPCs that you wouldn't necessarily get in game. Here's what it says about Togo. That Togo is the head of Xingji Monastery, and he has learned troubling news about Minister Cho's estate. He feels this challenge will offer an excellent opportunity for his students to learn, and we're kind of in that role right now. The other character here is Minister Cho. The Canthan Minister of Cultural Affairs is also a noted animal enthusiast. They describe the corrupted guards as innocent guards that have been afflicted, transforming them into hideous monsters. We also find corrupted animals in the mission. Minister Cho's menagerie has been struck by the bizarre plague. Among them are creatures that were once moas, stalkers, bears, lynxes, and wolves. They're all like Tyrian things. And then it has a huge block of text about tips and strategies on how exactly to beat the mission. I'm not going to read all of that out, as it really doesn't have anything that incredible. It's kind of funny reading the strategy guide along, and as the series goes along, you'll see it. They really run out of steam giving strategy information. And there's a real thing with Guild Wars 1 that I've come to appreciate years later. That for all its complexity, all its skills, and all the interesting stuff going on with it, most of it never translated into meaningful gameplay decisions or fun things to say. If it had, this strategy guide would have been filled with really interesting tactics and ideas for how to break through various upcoming challenges. But what actually happened is the strategy guide just says less and less and less on the subject because it just keeps repeating itself. It just keeps saying, the situation here is to do as much damage as possible. Try not to over-aggro. That's it. That's pretty much all it ever says. Target monks first. Try not to over-aggro. Do as much damage as possible. Those 3 facts will guide you through most of Guild Wars 1. And that's not because of power creep and stuff. In fact, this game was somewhat resistant to power creep over the years because as players got power crept, so too did all the mobs because they're using the same skills. It's not a power creep thing. It's just that it was never fully balanced or fully realized. And I see so much untapped potential in this game. That's one of the reasons I kind of want to do this monster draft thing and really get a sense of what these other builds are like and how they work in the context of us trying to use them. So yeah, there's not really much else going on with the Minister Chose Estate here. We just fight our way through all these creatures. I do actually have... Everything we're fighting is in that deck, by the way. So these second servants you see, he's spamming Flare on me right now. That's the same build. He's using my build right now. Except he doesn't have Phoenix and he doesn't have Starburst because we're not in hard mode, and that last one was one that I picked based on the 3 skill rule. But they're all here, except all those animals in the menagerie, the mad animals. There's loads of varieties of them. They have kind of weird, funny builds where they're warriors that have one skill called Frenzy, which is a stance that means they take double damage, but they attack quickly. And then they also, in hard mode, have the elite version of it, Primal Rage, which means they attack quicker and move quicker, I think, as well, but take double damage. So basically, they're just there to go crazy and die really fast. I did not include those in the deck. Several builds like that where it's like they only have 1 skill or 2 skills and it's clearly just so that they'll die. You can't draft one of those. I think I left maybe the Sickened Bear in as a joke. So if you play this game, or maybe later in the series you might find I might actually draw the Sickened Bear, but I probably won't play it. Just because there's no real need to it. But yeah, I managed to do so much damage here just because I move forwards. I'm the one aggroing, so... You know, I kick in my skills before the AI can. And the Starburst into Phoenix combo is really nice. So here's the end of the mission. Minister Chose off on the left. He's actually going to become really dangerous. By the way, I got a cast of Divine Intervention a second ago. I don't know if you guys caught that, but I actually saved my life by manually casting Talcora's Divine Intervention onto myself. And it worked. Anyway, so I'm thinking of casting Spellbreaker on myself here because this final boss is a Necromancer. But it's only going to trigger at the end of the cutscene and the enchantment would wear off during it. So I didn't in the end. So yeah, we greet him, but... Oh dear. He's sick, as the strategy guide already spoiled. And he becomes an enemy that we must defeat. So that's it really. I'll cut you back over to my original commentary now as I finish the mission. This is an Afflicted, this creature here. We'll be seeing a lot of them as the story goes along. Really, that's what Faction was about, fighting these things. You'll see that this guy actually summons a Vampiric Horror. I'd love to draft his build later. I really want to find a Minion Monster somewhere. Wow, that was easy. I was getting ready for Spellbreaker and everything, but nope.
May the envoys carry you swiftly on to the gates of everlasting paradise. Rest easy in the mists, my old friend. Come out, little one. It is all right. You're safe now. Do you know who I am?
You are Master Togo.
Ah, I can see you are a very smart little boy. But tell me, what brings you tears?
I had a bad dream.
A bad dream? Tell me what sort of dream could cause such tears.
The wind blew the leaves from the trees. And the animals in the zoo all became scared. The animals, they were always very tame. But something in my dream made them angry. And they started hurting everyone. Then the people got angry too. And they started to hurt each other. Minister Joe, he He was the most angry of all. And he turns into a big angry monster.
Where are your parents, little one?
My mother died when I was very little. I do not remember her much.
And your father?
He is guarding the gate. Master Togo, you do not think he will be angry like Minister Cho, do you?
No, little one. I do not think he will be angry at all. In fact, I think he'll be very happy when he sees you. I will see that our little friend here makes it back to his father. Go find Aang the Ephemeral and tell him what we have found here. He will be most interested.
To this day, the song that plays in this cutscene is one of my favorite songs in or any of the soundtracks, any of the works they've ever done. It's so haunting and like melancholic and just beautiful. It's such an incredible piece. So even though the quality of the dialogue and the cutscenes themselves maybe leaves a little bit to be desired. So there you go. That's pretty much the idea of the Minister Cho's estate. Introduced the idea of the sickness. This idea of the dream. Dreams aren't really a big theme of this story. It feels a little out of place, honestly, looking back at it. But the idea is we're gonna find that something very serious has been brewing, and well, there's more investigating to do. This Aang the Ephemeral character is another, if I remember rightly, instructor at the monastery. I might be wrong about that. But is actually a ghost, is just a full-on spirit. Here, you'll see him here, of Ascalon, I think, even, which is a nice little touch, considering that, you know, many of us identified as being Ascalonians at this point in the community, because all the Prophecies characters were originally from Ascalon. And he would give us the next quest, leading us to the next mission. He says, don't be afraid, I'm Aang the Ephemeral, a ritualist trainer. And yeah, if you're a ritualist, you could get lots of ritualist quests off of him. So that's kind of the beginning of the story. Minister Cho himself is defeated. Very easy mission for us, and we got a bit of a sense of the builds there. Next, we're going to be off to Zendai-Jun, and we'll be looking at this in the very next episode. Zendai-Jun is much harder as a mission, and the party size goes up to 6. So we will be drafting 6 new monsters, and the team that we have currently got we'll be getting rid of, but we can keep 2. Now, since that was the first mission of the game and the party size is only 4, it means we can keep half of the team. But later, we'll only be able to keep 2 of 8, which is going to be a much more difficult decision. I'm thinking that the Afflicted Necromancer was not that good. And I'm thinking that, what was this, a Shuriken Monk was not that good either. Let's go back and actually have a look here. Yeah, the Shuriken Monk, I think I'm going to discard. So the Monk will go to the graveyard now. It will not get mixed back into the deck. That's done for the whole run now. We don't get to see that again. And also, I'm going to be getting rid of this. But the 2 builds I'll keep are these. It's funny. The Sickened Servant obviously ended up doing a lot of damage. If we look at our DPS here, you'll see that the Sickened Servant did 59% of the whole team. The Monk did basically nothing, just a few auto attacks or something. We actually got a good amount of damage, though, out of the Necro as opposed to the Warrior. But, yeah, I'm actually going to keep both of these for now, I think. And we'll just see how they feel as we go ahead. Phoenix was obviously still a good combo, as hopefully I mentioned. And yeah, next part, what we will do is we will draw 6 more, and we will pick which of those go into our party of our slowly expanding group of monsters. After this mission's a lot harder, but should still be okay. After this, the game's going to get really challenging, and hopefully at that point, we will have drafted and found some good monsters to play from. So I'll see you guys for the continuation of the Abridged story in the next part very soon.